The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliate stations coast to coast present
Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike three, blew it past it.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food.
And you got your honey mustard?
I love mustard.
With Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Vowell.
Well, big deal. I am very professional.
Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
And welcome to Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue with Todd, Ted, and myself, Lee. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on the Twitter at Baseball Beer BBQ, and read us on our blog site, baseballbeerbbq.com, and find out even more info because we want you to go to so many different places on the interwebs. You can find out more info at thehappyhournetwork.com. We will be joined in just a bit by Tom Dakers. Tom's been on the show a couple times before, a really good guest. He's the editor of SB Nation's Toronto Blue Jays site, Bluebird Banter, and with him we will be previewing the AL East in general, and of course the Blue Jays specifically as he covers them so his family can eat. So who else do we have to thank, Ted?
This week we have Joe's Pizzeria to thank. No. I have Joe's Pizzeria to thank from last night. Thank you for the pizza. Okay, so we have, who do we have this week that we want to thank? Our friends at I-95 Sports Network, Back Sports Page, sorry, Randy, RM Sports, XRP Radio in the UK, Arena Sports Network, and our good friends at NGSC Sports that powers us on the iHeartRadio app. And Todd, do you have a special friend to thank on this pre-Valentine's Day?
Very, very lovely, special friend to whom my heart is dedicated, and who is, speaking of extremely professional, there is no more extremely professional company than Computer Repair NC, 919-653-8496. They fix laptops. They fix mobile devices. They also fix mobile, whatever I was saying before. They also fix computers. They'll walk your dog. They'll shampoo your dog. Many, petty, every service possible. Computer Repair NC.
Wow.
Most of that's a lie, but they do fix computers.
Well, that's it. So let's get into news and notes. And, of course, the Broncos won the World Series last week. Yeah, the World Series.
What?
Anyway, they won. Oh, I'm sure that's really annoying to our listeners. So it was 24-10. Obviously, Von Miller, a little-known guy, had never played before, had a big game, didn't know how to block him. And the Broncos won 24-10. His name is Von Miller. Never heard of him. Never heard of the guy before.
Not at all.
Yeah, he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated this week. He looks like I don't know if you guys seen the cover, but it's the when he stripped Cam Newton of the ball and went straight for the ball, which I thought was pretty funny. Because Cam's just like standing there, and Von Miller's like, screw the sack, I'm just going for the ball. So, but it looks like he's about to catch the ball or trying to catch the ball, and he looks like he has this big smile on his face. It's almost like they could have photoshopped it and not done a better job. But anyway, Broncos won 24-10 over the Panthers. We're a baseball show, but of course we've had football on previewing that for the last several weeks. Let me ask you this, Todd. I'll start with you. First of all, what do you think about the game, and what is Peyton Manning's legacy going forward? It's a disease. We're all catching it this morning. That's great.
I thought the people who, and a lot of the talking heads have said, oh, the game wasn't very good, blah, blah, blah. The game was excellent. You just have to appreciate defense. I mean, how can you not appreciate a game that had two of the best defensive performances ever? I mean, Coney Ely, he would have been the MVP if the Panthers had been able to generate something on offense. I mean, 3 sacks, an interception. Are you kidding me? So it was a great game. It wasn't an offensive show, but so what? I thought it was a really good game. As far as Mr. Manning's legacy is, well, you know, it was secure before, but all the naysayers who said, well, he only won one and blah, 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 now they have to shut up, which is good. So, yeah, I guess he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time. And I kind of hesitate because obviously this era is more geared to offense, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you know, what would Bart Starr look like if he was playing under? What would Johnny Unitas' stats be if he was playing under these rules. So it's hard to go across errors like that. But, yeah, he definitely cemented it as, like, one of the top greats ever with that win. So, and he had very little to do with the win except for, to me, what really mattered is, his comment was he's not the lead singer anymore. He's part of the group, but he can do a few solos every now and then. He realized that was his role now. He realized his physical limitations, and for the most part, he didn't really try to go past that. He realized that he had to be a cog in the machine at this point in his career because of his 10,000 various injuries. So I kudos to him for realizing that instead of being Brett Favre and throwing 8 picks or something, which actually, of course, he actually almost did that in his last regular season game before he got benched with his 4 picks and 5 completions. So he got the message, which was good.
Ted, what do you think?
Totally opposite of what Mr. Todd Vandenberg thought. I thought it was a horrible game. I'm an AFC guy. Peyton Manning did not show up. He was gifted. I think that let's start the conspiracy theory. He was gifted the Super Bowl. What else?
By Budweiser.
No, all jokes aside.
He was gifted it by Budweiser.
By Budweiser. By the 2 distributors that he owns. I mean, how come no one's going at him about that? I'm sorry to rant about this. No, Peyton Manning, even though two rings, tactically, I don't know if I said that correctly. I have a lot of saliva in my mouth. But probably one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Yes, he only won 2. And I want to mention that there was only one panelist that stated the Broncos would win last week. In the pre-show, I said it, but I said, Todd, you break that news.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Todd.
I appreciate that so much, Ted, for giving that to me. No, we all were talking about how good the defense was, and so to me, I wasn't surprised that I was surprised by how much they hounded Cam, and again, for the record, all this crap about Cam failed, and no, his offensive line failed, their scheme failed. There wasn't. What are you supposed to do when you got those guys in your face as much as they did? It's like,
but he was overthrowing. He was overthrowing a lot of people.
He did. He did.
Partly
but if he choked, Tom Brady choked too. Yeah, I mean, part of it's on him, absolutely. But if his line had actually done something for him, like God.
Yeah,
and as far as that,
true. Yeah. I just think, he started off the game overthrowing his first receiver, who was open, and overthrew him by about 10 yards, like over his head 10 yards, not beyond him 10 yards. He was almost too amped up, I thought, until he got to the end with the interviewing.
Right.
I would just like to say that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever have lived and ever have played the game. Thank you.
What? That's just sure what. Where's Ted? Who is this other guy? So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, as far as Peyton's comments about Budweiser, it's funny that there's been almost no blowback. Doesn't seem to be much blowback about that.
Of course not.
I mean, there's some, but it's like, really, Cam gets just raked over the coals for getting tired of answering the same stupid ass question. He didn't want to answer it 4 times in a row because he'd already answered it 3 times. What's he supposed to? To me, the only thing he could have done was give the real answer and throw his offensive line under the bus. You want him to do that? Like, come on.
I still think some of that was on Cam. I mean, yes. The Broncos gave nobody time to throw, unless it was Russell Wilson in the second half somehow.
Yeah, absolutely some of it was on Cam. I agree. But at what point is there any more to say other than they were better than us? They beat us in all phases of the game. Everybody was bad. He owned that he didn't play well too. It's like, and like you said, it's like, yeah, I am a sore loser. It's like everyone giving crap for that, and it's like, and of course someone ran the quote, like, "Show me a sore loser, I'll show you a loser" from Lombardi. It's like that's the name on the trophy. And you're reaming Cam over for saying exactly what your god of the NFL said? It's like, go to hell. Give the guy a break. That's ridiculous.
The Broncos did say they were going to they could win the game by forcing Cam to throw the ball. I mean, and they did. I mean, so, I mean, you know, I think one thing that, and we talked about this a little bit before the game, but one thing that Cam still struggles with is accuracy. And when he's forced to throw, and especially, I mean, again, he's going up against the Broncos defense. It's not like he's going up against my defense, you know, me and you and Ted or whatever. It's just, it's a great defense. So, you know, it's not all on Cam. It's on the Broncos defense. That's why Denver won the game. But I will say,
but he's the quarterback. He's the quarterback. He's the face of the NFL.
That's true. And all that's true. That's true. I agree. Totally agree. But I do think that, did Peyton play a great game? No. I mean, his offense isn't. He couldn't. He's not good enough right now anymore, and the offense is not good enough. But one thing he did do that nobody else had done in the playoffs is, and this was on Peyton because they threw the ball that first drive, is he drove them down the field and they got a field goal. Nobody else had done that. And you know that had changed the momentum of the game because the Broncos knew we just got points against this team that nobody else had, and the Panthers had to be thinking they just got points and nobody else has because it's such an emotional game that I think that was a big deal. Did he play a great game? Of course not. But that first drive changed a lot of things, I think. So it was interesting.
Hey, Todd.
Go ahead.
I'm just sorry. Todd, when we have a bad show, is it your fault or my fault, or is it Lee's fault?
That's always Lee's fault.
All right. Thank you. Back to you, Lee.
Well, that's just because, look, I'm getting a lot of pressure. I'm overthrowing Ted. I don't know. Todd's not doing his job.
Let me tell you something. When Ted's patrolling the middle, nobody catches the ball in crossing tag. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I have nothing against Cam Newton. He plays with joy, and you know, does he get upset after the game when he loses? Yeah, and a lot of people would. I don't have anything against them, but I did want to, and I don't have anything against the Panthers. But when Demaryius Thomas went over the middle and got hit by Kuechly, I wanted to tweet out that Cam Chancellor hit from 2 years. Exact same thing happened, and Thomas after that, he's not the same receiver when you hit him.
Nope.
And it's the same way against the Seahawks, the same way against the Panthers. I mean, so Peyton's not getting any help from Thomas. So that's
he disappeared.
He did, just like he did against the Seahawks. He got hit hard, and he didn't want to go over the middle again. So that's how it is.
Exactly.
So, you know, we're going to jump ahead a little bit in the outline. There are a couple of things I want to get back to news and notes, but because we're talking about Peyton, I think it's fair to jump ahead to the greatest of all time. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. We're just going to say whatever the first thing that comes into our head. So, the greatest player of all time in the NFL, and this is, I mean, it's impossible to say, oh, this guy is, because there's so many different positions and yada yada yada. But, Ted, I'll start with you. Who do you think is the best player ever in the NFL, and who is the best, not your favorite, who's the best player currently in the NFL?
Best player ever in the NFL? Jim Brown? I mean, I don't know.
That's fair.
And currently, I got to say, the subject of our last segment, Cam Newton.
Interesting. I mean, he is the MVP. I mean, you can't argue against that.
Based
on
Todd? Production. Just based on production. Sorry.
No. That's totally fair. There's no wrong answer to this unless you say Lee Vowell is the best player in the NFL. Then you're just trying to get more money out of him. So, Todd?
I agree. Jim Brown is the first name that popped in my head when I was looking through the agenda, and I thought about it, and there's no reason to say someone other than Jim Brown. I mean, there's other possibilities, of course, but yeah, Jim Brown, I think, is just, why wouldn't it be Jim Brown? And right now, I think it's J.J. Watt is the best player. Defense gets overlooked too much, and the guy's just a freaking animal. So, but like you said, with Cam Newton, yeah, it's kind of hard to pick against the MVPs. Like, he had one bad game. So what? You know, that doesn't mean anything about whether he's the best player or not, but I would say J.J. Watt right now.
Yeah, and I think the only argument against Cam is, is he of course I did say right now, and he won the MVP this year, but he's had some seasons where he hasn't been consistently great. I never saw Jim Brown play, but, just judging from the impact of what people say who played against him and just his stats alone, then it seems like it would have to be Jim Brown. The best player I ever saw, probably Jerry Rice. And as far as the best current player, J.J. Watt or Luke Kuechly, for that matter. Kuechly changes games when he's in the defense. So let's move on to NBA. I think I started with Ted. Best player ever in the NBA and best current player.
I really didn't get to see him live, but I'm going to say Bill Russell.
George Mikan is what you're going to say.
Bill Russell for helping to change the game, and it's easy. Currently, it's the millennials love him. His name is Steph Curry, or they call him Chef Curry.
Todd? Is Todd still there? Todd, are you still there? Ted, you're still there, right? Somebody's with me, right?
I am still here. Here, and I'm listening on my mobile
Great.
phone.
Great. I'm not sure what happened to Todd, but yeah, greatest player ever. I mean, to me, I'm going to be a homer here, but not just because he was my favorite player in the NBA, Michael Jordan, but he's also a Carolina guy. And yeah, I mean, Curry's a great player. You can go that. LeBron still changes the game by himself. So I mean, if I had to choose one player, I think it's LeBron. But there's no wrong answers. I'm not sure if Todd has passed on, but same thing happened to him last week. So let's talk baseball.
Hey, he's alive. He hasn't passed on.
No, I don't mean dead. I just mean passed on the show. Jeez. You guys are extremists. So, anyway, greatest player ever, baseball. This is the last one we're doing, baseball. And then who do you think is the best current player?
Trouty. Oh, I'm sorry. Best player ever. I mean, Willie Mays. And best player currently that I would want on my team, and I would pay the $400 or $500 million for him, Trouty.
Oh. When you said that, I thought you were going to go in a different direction. I think Todd's back. Todd, hopefully you're back. And
I am back.
Yeah, did you have a chance to answer the NBA question? Best ever all time?
Go ahead. In the middle of it, Skype decided to die on me. Magic Johnson, best ever for me. And current, I'll go with Steph. And it's like you said with Kuechly, he changes games. It's like he's the best defender? No, but he changes games more than anybody else right now. Baseball, I will go with Babe Ruth. And I know Lee hates that answer, but I'm sorry. He was also a hell of a good pitcher. And not that you hate the answer, but anyway. And currently, I'll go with Trout.
And I'll do mine based on 1 year, too. As Todd knows, I think the best player ever is Ty Cobb. I mean, you can make the argument about Ruth, his numbers, offensive numbers, and as far as homers, power numbers, and then pitching. I think Cobb changed the game defensively and offensively. And, if he played in he actually led the league in home runs. A lot of those were inside the park, but he led them in the league in home runs when it was the dead ball era. I still think the best player currently is Bryce Harper. And I think it's because defensively and offensively, I feel like he can do even more than Trout. Except for the stolen bases, he can do even more than Trout. And I think he's the equivalent. Yeah, he's not center field. But what he does in right field is just crazy good. I think based on last year, again, I'm basing this kind of like the Cam argument, basing it on 1 year. I think Bryce Harper is the best current player. But, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those answers, obviously. So I do want to do this. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, and we'll be joined by Tom Dakers at the bottom of the hour to preview the AL East. He writes for Bluebird Banter, Blue Jays site. But Marshawn Lynch, quote-unquote, retires because a lot of players think he's coming back. When he hasn't formally, put in the paperwork to say he's going to retire. His agent has said it, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does retire, if he actually is retired. But yeah, I still believe it when I see it because it's one of those things. It's the off season. The season just ended, and your body says you want to quit, but then it gets back into that. Okay, well, it's the draft and training camp. I want to play, so it'll be interesting. But I do have some snippets of some Marshawn Lynch runs. Of course, this is me being a homer again, but I don't care. This is Steve Rabel, who's the voice of the Seahawks radio play-by-play, great play-by-play guy. These are several of Lynch's runs, and I lead it off, of course, with Beastquake, which actually did register on the earthquake scale in Seattle because it's just mixed sand. There, the buildings are all going to fall into Lake Union one day. But anyway, this is Marshawn Lynch and a overview of some of his runs as a Seahawk.
Matthew under center, Obamanu goes in motion right to left, turn and hand to Lynch, left side. Finds a little bit of a hole, keeps his leg moving. He's across the 40, midfield, 45, he's on the run, Lynch, 40, pushes him at 35, look at him go. He's down to 20, 15, he could go, he is going to go. Touchdown, Seahawks. Oh my word, a 67-yard run. Marshawn Lynch, unbelievable. He must have knocked 5 guys down on the way to the end zone. And to Lynch, straight ahead. He's got room. He is in. Game over. Touchdown, Seahawks. Wilson turns, hands to Lynch, who powers over a defender. He turns upfield down the far sideline. He makes a man miss. He's still moving across midfield. In front of the Giants bench, all they can do is just watch as Beast Mode barrels over, runs around, and knocks down Giants defenders. Hand off to Lynch. He's got running room. He's inside the 10. Down to the 5. He is in again. Marshawn Lynch, touchdown, Seahawks. His 4th of the day. Breaks through the line, makes a man miss. Cuts back outside right 30, 35, 40. Down the far sideline. Pushes the defender. Keeps fighting. He's still moving. He's going to go. Down to the 20, the 15. They're chasing at 10. He dives in. Are you kidding me?
What a run. Oh,
Seahawks. Holy catfish. Russell out of the shotgun. 2 receivers near side. Marshawn gets it. Seabury 320. 10, 5. Are you kidding me? Touchdown, Seahawks.
So those are some Marshawn Lynch runs, of course. Steve Rabel, the voice of the Seahawks. If he truly is retired, of course, it's a sad thing. I mean, a great running back, but this year it seemed like he hit that near 30-year of age mark, which, of course, 30 years of age, we're all old, right, and decrepit at that point. But, he wasn't the same player this year, even though he suffered a lot of injuries. So won't spend a whole lot of time on Marshawn. We do want to get into baseball because we're here for baseball season. Yes, go ahead, Ted.
Lee, one comment. 4 words about Marshawn Lynch. See you in Oakland.
Yeah. Well, you may already have seen him. In Oakland because he's opened that new store. So, and that's where he's from. He seems to be a big part of that community down there, too, so that's good. Supposedly he hasn't spent any of his salary. He's been living on all the endorsement money, so he should have around $54 million to do whatever he wants to with.
Yes. You're such a homer. If I had a single highlight to play from the Dolphins season, I would play it in rebuttal, but since there are none, I appreciate the Marshawn Lynch thing, so...
Hey, the Dolphins still have Super Bowls, and they still have the only undefeated season. So I'm not going to dismiss the Dolphins. So
from 44 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well,
the Dolphins were great before I was
shaving.
Nobody else
has ever done it. Nobody's done it since. So, I mean, it still matters, even though, there's been a lot of teams with... Do I think the one-loss 49ers team of 89 could beat that Dolphins team? Yes, because I think they could beat any team that ever existed. But still... That was the only team to go undefeated. So,
the last time the Dolphins won a Super Bowl, my grandfather hadn't started shaving yet. That's how long that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
Actually, bringing up age, Taylor Fritz, who just turned 18 in October. You guys don't know who Taylor Fritz is. Maybe Todd does. Anyway, Taylor Fritz.
Taylor Swift?
Taylor Fritz. This is a name you will want to remember, I'm telling you. Just turned 18 in October. He's into the semis at the Memphis Open. He's the youngest American in an ATP semifinal since 1989, and it was Todd's grandfather. And he entered the event as a wild card ranked 145th in the world, and he plays in the semifinals today. Plays Barancas at the Memphis Open. So American tennis, starting to look a little bit better there. We got an 18-year-old Taylor Fritz as an American. So that's a good thing. Yeah. And before we get to baseball, of course, the primaries held last week for New Hampshire. Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump both won. Not a surprise as far as the polls looking this week. And we have, you said, was it next Saturday, Todd, that Nevada was holding their primary? Okay.
Yeah, the 20th.
And we also have South Carolina. So right now, according to the Huffington Post, I know it's so liberal, but the South Carolina Republican primary has 37-22. That's Trump over Cruz, and 63-33 Clinton over Sanders. Huge difference. And as far as Nevada goes, Trump leads in Nevada as well, 33-19 over Ted Cruz. Nevada is tied at 45 between Clinton and Sanders. So, Sanders still hanging in there. I don't expect him to make to win that Democratic side, but it is what it is. He's hanging in there almost better than Marco Rubio or anybody beyond Ted Cruz. So the good thing, if you're a liberal, you're running against probably Ted Cruz or Donald Trump. So hello, Hillary Clinton, you're the next president of the United States. So
whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry, Fox. What about friend Ted Hicks? You have the floor.
What about the other billionaire who's interested in dipping his foot in the water? Does he take votes away? Michael Bloomberg in New York.
I think Marshawn Lynch said it best when he said,
"If you want to start that conversation, you can go ahead, shoot."
So Bloomberg saying he could run as an independent is that changes things for Trump, I think, more than anything else, doesn't it?
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's going to siphon votes away from both sides, but more from one side than the other.
If he was good with Twitter, he'd be like, no, Trump, you spent this much on your campaign all by yourself, supposedly so far, which is a lie, but supposedly so far, that's real cute. Watch how I spend $3 billion on my campaign because it's just $3 billion I don't need. Ted is the guy to know, obviously, but Bloomberg, obviously, he's very conservative fiscally, I should say. But I'm a big supporter of his gun rights, as far as him saying, we need to have more control over the gun control issue. But Ted, what did you think about him when he was mayor of New York? Do you think he did a good job?
I'm going to tell you this much: the first two terms, post 9/11. This guy was fantastic. The third term, questionable because you kind of got in this shady because you extended the term limits so that, hey, he can finish a job. But 12 years overall in office, made a lot of great changes, cleaned up a lot of things with the Department of Education and a lot of the agencies and put forth. He did well for New York. He didn't leave out as popular. He might have, screwed up a snowstorm or two, but for the most part, did a great job.
And it was a surprise he won anyway the first time, right? It was kind of like out of nowhere.
Totally.
So let's move on to baseball. Obviously, pitchers and catchers are reporting. Some are reporting at the end of this week and right around that time. So very exciting time if you're a baseball fan. And we're going to be joined again by Tom Dakers in just a couple of minutes to talk the AL East. But Ted, real quick, I know you have to connect with Dakers. What do you think about Mejia for the Mets being suspended for life? Do you care at all? With being a fan and watching the last, 18 months with this guy, I think Fred Sanford, if we had the soundbite for You Big Dummy, to get caught a third time, come on. He wasn't – the crazy thing about it was the Mets kept him on the payroll and just didn't cut their losses after the first time. So now it's at number 3. It's at lifetime ban. Goodbye. And we've developed Jerry's Familia as our closer now, so it really doesn't matter. And this guy will never be back. Well, we hope he'll never be back. No, you don't even need a closer with the Mets, right? Your pitchers are just going to pitch 9 innings. You don't even need a closer at this point.
Stop.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying that sarcastically. The Mets are beasts in their starting rotation. Man. But anyway, I'll let you jump off. You can talk to Tom and bring him on when you get him back. And Todd and I will discuss the top 100 prospects according to Keith Law. It's kind of interesting the way he's done it because his top 50 prospects, he starts with a couple of guys who were up at the end of last season. Yeah, they're still rookies, I guess. But he starts with Corey Seager of the Dodgers, who will be a beast himself. He'll be the shortstop. Could play third base. Depends on what they do with that. And Byron Buxton of the Twins, number 2. You're going down this list. The next guy in line, Lucas Giolito of the Washington. I want to really call them the Senators, but the Nationals.
You're old.
I mean, yeah, this is a pitcher. And the Nationals, for all that they've done as far as going out and getting free agents, it seems like maybe they are still doing an okay job with their farm system. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this kid looks like, from everything you're reading, he's got everything you need. I mean, good live fastball, good curve. I mean, and hopefully we're at the point where, we realize how to handle pitchers and not destroy them. I mean, he is basically a kid. He's 21. I mean, the size that they love in pitchers, which to me it's comical that they'll ignore. If you're not 6 foot tall, you can't pitch in the major leagues, which, Lincecum only gave him a few great years, right? But 6'6", 255, I mean, this guy's got the frame where as long as they use him correctly, he won't break down. I mean, obviously he's got the size, and apparently he's got the stuff. And it's good for baseball that the Nationals do well. To me, it's good for the game in general that you have competitive divisions. So I think it's important that the Nationals bounce back and have a good season and give Ted's Mets a run for their money. Not that I want them to beat Ted's Mets. I do not. But to make it interesting. I mean, how great was the Central last year with the 3 best teams in baseball practically, except for the one that actually won, all in one division. So, yeah, it's great the Nationals are bouncing back. And like you said, looks like they're doing it through the farm system as well as in the free agent market.
Which is all you can ask for.
Yeah. There's a lot of pitchers on this list, too.
Yep.
Early on.
We'll get to it a little bit later, but Ted, tell us a little bit about our guest.
Sure. We have... we'd now like to welcome Tom Dakers to the program. Tom runs and writes Toronto's Blue Jays site, Bluebird Banter. Tom, thanks for being on with us once again.
Good morning.
Yeah, Tom, you've been on a couple of times with us. You're always great. It's great to have you on again. And, of course, last season for the Blue Jays was fantastic. Hopefully this season will be fantastic as well. But we'll have a couple of questions for each team. We'll start with the Baltimore Orioles, of course, because alphabetically they come first, unfortunately. So how important was it for them to re-sign Chris Davis?
I think for this year, I think it's very important they got Chris Davis back. For them, I'd be worried about the length of the contract. He's really only had 2 really good seasons, and he's not as young as he used to be. The odds of him being good for the length of the contract is pretty slim. But this year, they need that power bat if they want to keep up with the other teams in the East.
Yeah, all the teams, it seems like they've made changes, especially with the bullpen. But, as far as the Orioles, not so great rotation. I mean, Gosman is their apparent ace, and he was the only guy sub-4.0 ERA. Do you think the Orioles have the pitching to be able to hold up in the AL East?
I don't see them being much better than they were last year. And, I really don't see them keeping up. I think the 4 other teams are better than they are. So, but you never know.
Very true.
Hey, Tom, this is Todd. I almost said, hey, this is Dan. I have no idea what's going on with me this morning. Going to move on to the Boston Red Sox. Who do you think is the bigger acquisition, David Price or Craig Kimbrell? And are these guys 2 enough to put them back in contention?
David Price is a big deal, and we really enjoyed having him here. He was a great pitcher, but he was also great with his teammates. He seemed to be just what the team needed in the clubhouse. He seemed to relax everybody. He's going to be a great addition to their team. I think the Red Sox are probably our biggest competition this year. They've got a lot of good young players coming up, and they've improved their rotation, and of course improved the bullpen. And yeah, I'm worried about them.
All right. And you mentioned Price's impact in the clubhouse. How important is that? Should that be a big factor when you're picking somebody up, or do you really look at how they perform on the mound?
I normally just look at how they perform on the mound, but the Jays sure turned things around when he came in. He was a great cheerleader. He was there right the day after the trade, was in the dugout, smiling, cheering for the team. He seemed just to be a wonderful teammate. And a couple of days after he'd been with the team for a couple of days, he bought them all scooters, little scooters, and they were half the team was going to the ballpark on these little scooters for the first while. And he just seemed to get along with everybody, which was nice to have. It seemed like we do have a team that kind of has a few guys that are friends with each other. It seemed that when he came along, everybody was friends with everybody all of a sudden. So that can't hurt.
No, I'll say. Especially, you got to play as a team. It helps to act like one. Back to the Red Sox. Not that I want to, but that's what the agenda says. So expectations were kind of high for Betts and Bogaerts last year. Do you see them living up to those expectations this season?
Yeah, I think the young batters really are good players. I think their farm system has produced a lot of good players lately, and I think probably now that they've had a year in the majors, they know what's going on. I think they're going to be that much better. My hope is maybe some of the older guys fall off a little bit more, and that they're not as good as I'm worried that they'll be. But they seem to do this worst to first thing and first to worst thing quite well.
Hey, Tom, this is Ted. As always, welcome back to the show. I unfortunately have two Yankee questions for you. The Yankees bullpen.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. It's the evil empire. It's the evil empire. We have to do it. So that bullpen of Betances, Miller, and Chapman is totally stacked. But, in your eyes, was that their biggest need for 2016?
I thought their biggest need was starting pitching, really. And, their bullpen was great last year, so adding more to it kind of seems to be kind of diminishing returns after a certain point. How many great relievers do you need? I'm sure Chapman's a terrific pitcher, and he'll probably will help out. But how many high leverage innings are they going to have? So if I was them, I would have been looking for starting pitching and maybe a couple of younger bats than they had, but they don't pay me to do that, so.
Very true. Ted may have dropped off. So, do you think that they have the offense? Is aging. Do you think they have enough offense to actually lead them going into the seventh inning to allow the bullpen to take over?
Yeah, no, I don't see them having enough offense. It seems like their best players are getting older, and of course they lost the first baseman Bird for the season, right? He's out for the season, and I do think I thought they'd be looking to improve the offense and maybe get a couple of younger bats in to fill in for when the older guys are too tired to play anymore.
Yeah, that's very true. Sounds like someone has a ice cream truck outside their house. It's too cold to have an ice cream truck. So let's talk about Tampa Bay a little bit. So is there any other team in the AL East that has one player, Chris Archer, of course, it seems to be so much better than anyone else on the roster? And could he win the Cy Young if he was with, say, Toronto?
Yeah, if he was with Toronto, he'd have a great shot at the Cy Young, wouldn't he? He'd probably have 20-some wins and impress the voters a lot. Boy, he seems like just a great pitcher and like just a great guy too. I know he visited the Children's Hospital when he was in Toronto last year, and
that's awesome.
And we saw him on TV during the playoffs, and he just seemed like just a good person, didn't he? It's hard to hate guys like that. We'll try. We'll find a way.
That's right. And maybe you'll end up being a Blue Jay one day. Who knows? So, and how likely is it that Drew Smyly actually delivers on his potential this season?
Yeah. It seems like it hasn't happened up till now, has it? Not quite to what you'd hope. I don't know. He could be good. He could be bad. He'll probably be somewhere in the middle, unfortunately for them. But he never quite seems to be the pitcher that you're expecting, does he?
No. Yeah. So the Rays themselves, though, they're probably clearly the worst team in this division because it's a tough division. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think I always think they're going to surprise us, and some years they do. But I think this year they'll be near the bottom of the division. I'm not thrilled with Baltimore either, so I'm thinking those two teams will be fighting it out for last. But I'm really just hoping that they decide to pull up stakes and move to Montreal like they should. But
that's true. Or Quebec City, because they seem to be wanting to have an NHL team. Maybe they should have a baseball team as well.
Yeah, well, I don't think they have the population base there. But last year I was at Montreal for the 2 preseason games, and it was a lot of fun. I think they do well with a baseball team and a new stadium, or probably the other way around, a new stadium first and then a baseball team. But
yeah,
Olympic Stadium is I think the right term is ugly. Really, it's just a scary looking place. Although it was kind of fun with 50,000 baseball fans in it, but it must be the worst stadium that's ever been in baseball. So
yeah, it seems that way.
Well, the Rays aren't far behind, and as far as the Rays go, I think their days of surprising anybody are gone, along with Joe Madden. Again, I want to remind everybody we're talking with Tom Dakers of Bluebird Banter, and we will move on to the only team that counts. That would be, of course, the fabulous Toronto Blue Jays. Their farm system used to be in Knoxville. Their entire farm system, their AA team was in Knoxville. So Lee and I enjoyed seeing many of their great players come through when they were mere babes. Based on last season's success and the off-season loss of David Price, what are the expectations for the Blue Jays like in Toronto?
Well, it's win or bust really again this year. We've got a new team president, a new team GM. Fans are kind of not all that thrilled with them yet, mostly because they didn't sign Price. But the team's built to win now, and so they better really. I think Mark Shapiro will not be a very popular person if the team doesn't win this year.
And of course, part of that expectation is based on Devin Travis. He missed a lot last year after a good start. What do you expect from him this season?
Yeah, he's not due to be back until probably May too. So I'm trying not to expect too much out of him this year because, they said he wouldn't be back for spring training and probably will be out for most of April. He does seem a little bit brittle, but when he hit, he was great. The nice part is Ryan Gomes had a super year filling in for him, and he actually hit quite well after Travis went on the DL. So I'd love to have Travis back, but if not, I think we're still set at second base. So,
hey Tom, without a doubt, the Blue Jays have uber amount of power, and that's only one element. So besides power, what else do they need to make them, for them to go to the World Series to become champs?
Well, they really need Marco Estrada to pitch like he did last year. He was a surprise last year. I didn't expect it. I didn't know whether the team wanted him to be a starter or reliever coming in, and I thought if he was a starter, he'd be kind of a rather average starter, and he wasn't. He was excellent. They need Jay Happ to pitch like he did for the last half of last year. He went over to the National League there, I think, and was very good after being pretty crappy for the Mariners for a while. They need him to pitch the way he did last year, and then they need no injuries in the starting rotation again. We were very lucky for injuries last year. We need that same sort of luck again. Beyond that, they got to figure out the bullpen a little quicker than they did last year. But
okay, thanks for that answer. And you kind of jumped the gun a little bit and answered my secondary question was about the starting staff. But what are your thoughts about? What are your expectations for Marcus Stroman this season?
Marcus amazed me last year. I didn't expect him to pitch at all. He came in at the end of the season. He was the best pitcher on a team that had David Price. I'll never bet against him any time. He just seems to outwork everyone. I think he has a little chip on his shoulder about people not believing he can start because he's not a big guy. He's shorter than me, which is hard to believe that he could be a major league pitcher and not be taller than me. But he works harder than anybody, and he's all personality. If you see his Twitter account or his Instagram, he's a great guy. He's there at the NBA All-Star Weekend in Toronto. They showed him working out in Rogers Center yesterday. Even though you would have thought he would just take a weekend off, he never seems to take any time off. He's terrific. He's talking about he wants to win a Cy Young this year, and I wouldn't even bet against him on that. So,
got you. Well, I from all of us, Tom, we want to thank you for being on Baseball Beer and Barbecue today. Could you tell us about your site and other places on social media where your work and where you can be found?
Yeah, I'm on, yeah, like you said, I'm on Bluebird Banter all the time, it seems. We all have the Twitter site, or the Twitter account, and that's surprisingly enough Bluebird Banter. And of course we're on Facebook and all those things. Seems like every time there's something new we're on it, which is fun.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, you've been a great guest as always. So thanks for being on, and enjoy. We'd love to have you on again during the season if you can make it, and enjoy the Blue Jays, and hopefully they'll win the East again.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully next time it'll be barbecue weather.
That's right. And, oh yeah, I gotta ask you. You mentioned you may have tried a few different new beers. Have you tried any that really stood out?
My favorite right now is an Ontario beer, Barking Squirrel, which I irritate waitresses by forgetting that it's Barking Squirrel and call Flying Squirrel all the time. And of course, since they're all younger than me, they don't get the reference in the least, so I look like the stupid old guy.
A Barking Squirrel. I have to look that up.
It's a good lager, yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thanks, Tom, for being on. Enjoy your Saturday.
Thank you. Bye.
So that's AL East. And next week we talk about AL Central, I believe, if I have my outline. If anybody's listening to this show, Joel, for instance, if you're listening, I have no idea what's happening next week. We're live. That's all I know. And I'll be coming live from Phoenix. So that should be fun. Maybe. Hopefully, I'll get out and see Glendale, where there's tons of teams that are actually have their spring training. Glendale, yes. Don't go
Glendale.
That stuff happened yesterday. we don't want to go there.
No, not that. No, not that. Monty Python. Glendale.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry, when you said Glendale.
Yeah. No. Say no more.
Could you do me a favor next week?
Maybe.
No.
Tell Senator John McCain Ted says hi from Fox and Friends.
I certainly will. He'll be like, which one is he? I'll be like, he was the black guy. I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's him.
Oh, yeah, that's him. That guy.
It's got to be him.
I remember that guy.
Barking Squirrel. A 5% ABV Amber Lager with a distinct rich burnt orange color and subtle noble hop aroma. Medium body, pleasant hop bitterness, and caramel malt sweetness makes it a smooth and drinkable with a slight hop aftertaste.
Where is it brewed?
It is brewed in a town called Hop City, which is not a real town. Let's see what it's brewed. It is.
Todd, were you describing my complexion as burnt orange?
No.
No, that would be the presumptive Republican candidate for the presidency of the United States.
That would be Charlie Strong. That would be Charlie Strong. That's who that is. So, anyway, the Sports Illustrated, while Todd is looking up where it's actually brewed, Sports Illustrated this week, which has Von Miller, a little-known player from the Denver Broncos, I believe that's what they're called, is on the cover. He looks like he's catching a pass from his good friend, Cam Newton, who's about to fall down. So this is their top 10 teams starting 2016, which I thought was interesting because number 10, their 10th best team, according to Sports Illustrated, to start the 2016 season is the Kansas City Royals, which, of course, just won the World Series and made it back-to-back World Series. But that's number 10. So Toronto Blue Jays, number 9. The Red Stockings of Boston are number 8. The Texas Rangers, number 7. The San Francisco Giants, who are hated in my house anyway, number 6. The Pittsburgh Pirates, number 5. The Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers, number 4. The Houston Astros, number 3. Ted's New York Mets, number 2. And number 1, of course.
Wait, drum roll.
Oh,
Miami Marlins.
Don't have a drum roll. Well, you guys can guess who number. If I've named all those top 10, who do you think they have number 1?
Marlins.
Of course, yeah. Of course, it's the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs. It says on paper, this is the best team in baseball by a decent margin, so not even close, according to them. Not satisfied with making the NLCS last year, the Cubs went out and signed the best position player on the market, Ted Hicks, a do-it-all all-star to play second, Todd Vandenberg, and even swiped an underrated rotation stabilizer from their arch rivals in St. Louis, Joel Schaefer. For all the help those veterans should provide, this is still a team with youth at many key positions, which is exactly what you'd want in the mostly post-PED era when age curves have changed and players tend to peak earlier and fall off more sharply, a.k.a. Marshawn Lynch. So they don't say Marshawn Lynch. But anyway, so you guys' take on that top 10, the Royals, number 10, I mean, how good is that?
I think it's good for the Royals because, wow, they sure have...
What in the world? What's happening, Ted?
Oh, my goodness. I'm looking for this video so I can post it on our site, on our Twitter site. It was with Darth Vader, the GPS. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
I ruined a joke.
It actually almost played exactly into what we were talking about, which was the weird thing. Anakin has his views on, the Royals are... Wow.
Oh!
That's interesting. Wow. So I have no idea where to go from this. But, anyway.
That's ridiculous, yeah. But the Royals will be happy. That's ridiculous putting them 10th. But the Royals will be happy to see that because they can legitimately say no respect, and they can play with a chip on their shoulder, even though they're the World Series champs. Which is crazy. But it'll work. Which we haven't even we talked about the NBA briefly, but that goes a long way to powering the Warriors. I mean, they're playing like nobody respects them. They're the freaking champs. But they're playing like they get no respect, and it's kind of working for them, isn't it? So, and I thought that was a really interesting thing Tom brought up, too. And I love how I'm monopolizing the last few minutes here, and I wish I wasn't. But anyway. But great. How Tom brought up how important Price was in the clubhouse. I mean, teams are workforces. How fun is it to go to work when everybody gets together and everybody pulls together as opposed to all the little cliques? And how important is that in a team? So, understandably, you've got to look at the on-field performance. I mean, you don't want a guy with, who slings it up there at 88 for a fastball and has no breaking stuff because he's good in the clubhouse. But when they're great in the clubhouse on top of everything they bring to it, I mean, what a bonus that is. And it really makes you wonder if teams are looking at that. I would hope teams would be looking at that too, because look what the Royals did. And like you said, look at the difference with the Blue Jays as soon as Price got there, and all of a sudden they became a team instead of, here's these 3 guys, here's these 4 guys, blah, blah, blah. So I thought it was very cool that he brought that up, and I wasn't really aware that he had that much of an impact, but which kind of scares me that he might have that impact on the Sox. Because I would not that I wish ill on the Sox, but I would rather see the Blue Jays win that.
Yeah, I would too. I don't know why though. I mean, the Blue Jays are a fun team. They seem to have fun. It's like rooting against Cam Newton. Maybe he's not the quarterback of my favorite team, but he's almost like a plays with childlike exuberance. What's that?
How can you root against Canada? Which, by the way, Brampton, Ontario, Hop City.
Oh, okay. I was like, okay, that's random. Let's talk about Medicine Hat for some reason. I didn't forgot that we were even talking about the beer. But yes, say that city one more time.
Brampton, Ontario. L6W3M6, Canada. Phone number 905-459-4489. Hopcity.com.
And just for those still listening, Brampton is 0. Yes, Brampton is a city the size of. I feel like I should make a joke, but
Colorado.
Not about Brampton. Not about Brampton. Just about the way I'm talking. Actually, population 523,000. So pretty big.
Wow.
Pretty big. We should know that. It's probably right outside Toronto, I'm assuming.
It is.
By the way,
it is the size of Colorado.
Yeah, someone who may have an issue with the Royals being number 10. We should bring this up next week. Max Reaper of Royals Review, the SB Nation Royals site, will be on to help us preview the AL Central. So that's our show. Any final words?
Goodbye.
No?
Peace.
That's it. And here we go. We're back to the baseball outro. Thanks for listening.
The fans hoping to catch a little bit of the old-time religion right here, baby. With Junior stepping up to the plate. Here comes the stretch. And the pitch to Junior on the way. Swing and a fly ball hit to deep right center field. That baby is going to be fly away. The old-time religion lives. Junior does it. A 2-run home run.